Welcome back to another edition of Life in Pictures podcast. Today, we're going to be covering a movie that came out 35 years ago. From out of the shadows. COWABUNGA, dude. We're talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was released in 1990, where, if you're the same age as me, you were 6 years old. Or, if you're listening to this episode, maybe you hadn't even been born yet. That is probably your experience.
Yeah, I was definitely not around in 1990.
Not probably, it was definitely your experience.
Yeah, I was not around in 1990. Yeah, but I've seen this movie like twice, but the first time I don't remember a whole lot about it because I was really young. So I watched it again for its 35th anniversary.
Yeah, so if you haven't noticed, Colin is our co-host today.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and its sequel, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, which came out 1 year after the first film.
In 1991.
1991.
Yes.
So, we'll just get right into it, I guess. The film, as we said, is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The budget for this film was $13.5 million, which, by the way, was a lot more money then than it is now. The box office was $202,084,756 worldwide. It was the highest grossing independent film ever until 1999, when it was surpassed by the Blair Witch Project. And if I had to render an opinion, I would say it's better than the Blair Witch Project, but you might not share that opinion. Let's see, the cast, or this is at least some of the cast. Judith Hoag plays April O'Neil. Josh Pace, I hope I'm saying these names right, is Raphael. Brian Toki is the voice of Leonardo. Elias Cotius. I'll be honest with you, this is a movie that I've seen when I was young, and I never really cared about actors back then, so I don't know how to pronounce most of these people's names. I hope I'm doing it right. But anyway, Elias was Casey Jones. Robbie Wrists was Michelangelo, or the voice of Michelangelo. Corey Feldman was the voice of Donatello, which I honestly did not realize until I saw his name in the credits just recently. Kevin Clash, who you might know as the voice and puppeteer of Elmo from Sesame Street, was the voice and puppeteer for Master Splinter. And David McCarran, I don't know. Yeah, does the voice of Shredder. So hopefully I did not butcher any of those names too bad, but I also have a feeling that none of those people are listening to this podcast, so it's probably not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
If you are one of those people and I butchered your name and you want to tell us about it or be a guest, please do. That would be amazing to talk to some of you folks that were involved in this film.
You are welcome to be on this podcast. We are not excluding you if you want to be a part of it.
Anytime. Where can you watch this film? Well, I could not find it available on any streaming services like Netflix or Hulu or anything. The best I could do was find it available to rent or buy, from Amazon or Fandango at home or whatever, place you buy your digital films from. You can probably find it there. Or if you're like me, maybe you already have this film on DVD or Blu-ray. There's been several releases, or VHS possibly still. There's been several iterations of it, or maybe iteration isn't the correct word, but several versions of it on several different formats over the last 35 years. So there's a good chance you might already own this film in one medium or another. You want to tell them what the movie's about?
So the movie's about 4 turtles that were obviously mutated. That's why it's called mutant Ninja Turtles. They were mutated by this ooze in, I don't know what year it was, but there were 4 baby turtles in a sewer, and they were mutated by this ooze, and they eventually grew up to become, well, ninjas, and they could talk. And this clan starts committing a bunch of crimes in New York, but nobody knows who they are because there's a whole line of people each taking part in the crimes, and they're very, like, they're not disguised, but they're, like, very hard to see, I guess. And they're called the Foot Clan, and they're led by this evil ninja named Shredder, and the movie's about all the 4 turtles going to stop Shredder and his clan from their master plan.
Yeah, so that's basically it. If you were around back then you know how big the Ninja Turtles were. It was just like the thing to be involved with at the time. There was a massively popular cartoon. And same thing for the merchandising. The toys were very popular. I watched that cartoon all the time. I had the toys. We had bed sheets. It was like, if you were a kid in the 90s, you were a fan of the Ninja Turtles, most likely. So in 1990, when they made this film, it was kind of at like the height of Turtle Mania, you might call it. And, obviously before it was a cartoon and before it had the toys and all of that stuff, it was a comic book. And I'll be honest with you, I never read the comic books, really. I've maybe read a few of them. But I mean, I was 6 years old. I wasn't really reading that type of stuff back then. The comic book, from what I can gather, is a lot more serious in tone, maybe a little more mature than the cartoon and the toys and stuff were. But anyway, it started out as a comic book. It sort of evolved into this massively popular cartoon. Kids everywhere loved it. They were all over the place. Toys, lunch boxes, bed sheets, everything. We had a Ninja Turtle electric toothbrush that talked to you. They had a Raphael that would, you put hitting a button and he would say this like little poem about brushing your teeth. It was all anything you could slap a picture of a turtle on. Shoes, t-shirts, anything. It was, you've seen it before with popular franchises, but this was no different. So when they announced that they were making this movie, it was a big deal. Like, I remember at the time coming home from school, and my mom had, like, while we were at school, she had gone out and got some stuff to decorate our room. This was my brother and I were sharing a room at the time. And I came home, and on the wall, there was this poster. That's the poster of the of this movie, the Ninja Turtles movie. And I just remember it was like the coolest picture you could see, because you up until this point there wasn't a live action version of this. It was all cartoons, and it was this like real photo of like New York City and the 4 of them peeking out of the sewer, and it said, "Hey dude, this is no cartoon." And I was like, "What is this?" And it's like, "Oh, there's going to be a movie." I was like, "No way, we have to go see this." So I remember going to see it we were living in Boca at the time, and we went to see it. It was just the greatest movie that I had ever seen at that point in my 6-year-old life. And I remember going out afterwards and buying the soundtrack for it on a cassette tape. And, I didn't know what a soundtrack was. And my mom was like, "Oh, we should go buy the soundtrack." And I was like, "What is that?" It's like, "Oh, yeah, it's like the music from the movie." And I was like, "Oh, no way." So they bought me this soundtrack, and I remember listening to it like all the time. And MC Hammer was on it, who was also very popular at the time. And then there was a bunch of like the other artists on there. I don't know if they were popular at the time. Obviously, I wasn't familiar with them because I was a little kid. But at least those songs that were on the soundtrack, I still remember to this day. And it adds an extra layer of it for me when I watch this movie and I hear the songs in the background, and I remember listening to them on that cassette tape when I was a kid. And it was just a really great, it was really great to see the cartoon or these characters represented in live action on the big screen. Jim Henson did his Creature Shop did the costumes and the animatronics, and it was just really well done. Filmed in New York. I think a few other places too. Some of the stuff was like on a back lot, stuff like that, but it was really cool. I really enjoyed it. And I'd shown it to Colin when he was little, but he was so young at the time that he didn't remember it. So recently, they've had this 35th anniversary, and they're having a screening of it in theaters now. And it is actually going on, depending, you should check the listings in your area. But I have seen listings through the 28th. So you do still have time to go catch this in theaters if you've never seen it on the big screen, or if you want to see it again on the big screen. What was your what was your experience like seeing this? Like, I've talked about my experience the first time. What was your experience like, obviously not being around for the height of the popularity and all of that, but still going to see this essentially for the first time on the big screen? What was that like for you?
So for me, it was a really good movie. I couldn't really relate to like being obsessed with it, as I'm sure a lot of people were in the 90s when it came out, because it's not really the thing anymore, which that's not an insult. That's just a fact. It's not as popular as it once was. But it was still a really good movie. I'm still used to like seeing them in animated form. I don't like watch the cartoon closely or read the comic books closely, but like the ones you see everywhere are mostly cartoonish and not live action. So like I've known what they've looked like in live action despite not seeing the movie that much, but I always like for me that's a negative, which is definitely an unpopular opinion. But I think they look really interesting, to say the least, in live action. But I still think the movie was really good. I think they did enough justice to the franchise to make it enjoyable and worth rewatching.
Yeah, I always thought that's interesting to see somebody's perspective that doesn't have that background with it. It's kind of like the way that I tell you, like, I'm obviously, this, and some other folks out there might not know this, but I'm a big fan of wrestling. And when I was growing up, from like when I was in middle and high school, wrestling was like the biggest thing out there. Like everybody was a wrestling fan. People that like a few years before it blew up were like, oh, wrestling is stupid. We're all of a sudden coming to school in like NWO shirts and stuff. Like, it was massive. And now they have all of that footage. You can watch it on the WWE network or whatever, and it's still cool to watch it, but like, it's not the same as like if you were there when it happened. Like, it's not the feel isn't the same. Like, you don't go to the grocery store and see a wrestler on the cover of TV Guide. I mean, you don't even see TV Guide anymore anyways. But just, you don't see them on these late night talk shows or Saturday Night Live, or like, it's still cool, but it's not the same. So it's always cool to see somebody's experience with something for the first time and coming at it from a different angle than maybe what your experience with it was. And for us, seeing this movie for the 35th anniversary, we actually got a really great surprise, because we had no idea this was going to happen, but it turns out that I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name, if it's Langan or Langan. I'm going to go with Langan. Hopefully that's right. Todd Langan, the screenwriter of the movie, was actually at the theater where we were watching the anniversary screening of it. We had no idea he was going to be there. And so we went in and they scanned our tickets and they said, hey, we're going to do autographs after this. And we were like, autographs? What? And then we saw his table set up and we were like, oh man, that's really cool. And he came in the theater and he gave an introduction to the movie, and he told us some stories about filming it and writing it. And he did a Q&A afterwards, and He did a meet and greet where he signed autographs and took pictures and spent a few minutes with each person in line. And, we got to talk to him for a little while about, things we liked about the movie, questions we had, things like that. And he actually also wrote the sequel, The Secret of the Ooze. So that was really cool because I think that's the first time I've ever watched a movie where the person that wrote it was also there and you were actually able to directly ask them if you had a question about it. Because sometimes you're watching a movie and you see something and you're like, oh, I wonder if that was intentional or if that was a reference to something or, where that idea came from or whatever. And in this way, you didn't have to really speculate. You could just say, hey, how did you do this?
Like, for example, one of the main things he said was a lot of the scenes with everything, but I'm like specifically Shredder in general. He took a lot of inspiration from Star Wars and Darth Vader to make Shredder like this, giant, menacing, really bad guy in the movie.
Yeah, and I thought that was really cool too because I remember I noticed some things for the first time when I watched this movie, and it's probably because the other times I watched it, I was a little kid and I wasn't really paying that close of attention to see these details. But like when they first introduced Shredder and he's kind of got the robe and he's slowly walking and he's kind of breathing heavy and he's got that mask, and I said, wow, this is kind of reminding me of something. And then he says, this is your family and I am your father. And I think I leaned over to you and I said, that's like Darth Vader. I wonder if that's on purpose. And then after the show in the Q&A, Todd confirmed that is exactly what it was alluding to. So that was cool. That was just an example of something where you might notice something and you could find that out. You could get it confirmed right from the source right there. So that was really cool. Do you have any favorite parts you want to talk about?
Yes, I want to mention two in particular. The first part, I'm going to go in chronological order. The first favorite part that I have of this movie is when, in the beginning, the Ninja Turtles stop some thugs in the dark from mugging April, basically.
Yeah.
And, Splinter, I don't want to say scolds because that doesn't sound like the right word. He kind of like lectures them about how I don't want to say unsafe it was, but I mean like revealing it could have been. And they're like it's supposed to be like a serious discussion, and in the background Michelangelo's just ordering a pizza from Domino's.
Which is really amazing if you think about it, because they live in a sewer, but they have all of these modern conveniences down in the sewer, like a television and a phone and all this kind of stuff. Building off of that, one of my favorite scenes from the beginning is where they get Domino's delivered to the sewer. And I don't know if other folks know this about me, but I like pizza a lot. And so I always thought that was cool that you could just get a pizza delivered wherever you are. And the guy pulls up and, the address is like a fraction on the street. And he's like, where the heck is this? And all of a sudden from underneath him, he goes, you're standing on it, dude. And then, I remember Michelangelo and is it Leonardo?
Yeah, it's Leonardo, yeah.
They're talking and he says, pizza dude's got 30 seconds. And then he says, wise man says, or something like that. It's like, forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
Yeah, and then another thing I had is, like, I wanted to add on how this scene is funny. Because it's funny that, one, the address is a fraction. Two, the pizza delivery guy just hears this voice from the sewer telling him that he needs the pizza. And then, to grab the pizza, a green hand with 3 fingers comes out with a bunch of money and grabs the pizza. So, but the only thing the pizza delivery driver does is he's like, I deliver everywhere, and that's it. Like, that's all. Like, he doesn't care that there was a green hand coming out of the sewer, just that he delivered to the sewer. That's it.
Yeah, and let's also talk about the great opportunity with the product placement for Domino's. Because it's 35 years later, and we saw that movie, and we said, we got to get some Domino's for dinner tonight. Seems like the only appropriate thing to do. So that is still paying off for them 35 years later. That's great. I also liked they kind of foreshadowed a little bit what was going to happen in the third film, which probably wasn't intentional because obviously they didn't have any way to know that there would be a third film. So it's probably more like the third film whoever wrote the third film went back and looked at this and incorporated that. But they did talk about like the Foot Clan, or another group that was similar to the Foot Clan in Japan in like the 1600s or something like that, which I think ends up being the plot line of the third film. So I thought that was like definitely a detail that I did not notice when I was a kid. And then also, like I had said before, another favorite thing is just seeing the turtles and the movie sets, the sewer, the city, all of that come to life on the big screen in live action. That was just so cool. And I still think it's cool now, like to watch that. It's just like, oh, this is real, like it's great.
And another favorite part that I want to mention is like how we were talking about earlier that, Shredder is like not as a character, but in this movie, Shredder is just like a walking, talking, breathing reference to Star Wars, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I love it.
Yeah, it's really cool, like to see some of those, or to find out some of those things later, to see it on the screen and say, oh, this reminds me of this other thing, and then to be able to talk to the screenwriter and have him confirm, yeah, you were right about that, or you noticed the right thing. There was a scene that I noticed that I was not correct about, because at the end they battle Shredder on the roof, and I said, oh, this kind of reminds me of Ghostbusters. I wonder if that's a reference, and it turns out it was just a coincidence, but still kind of neat. There's actually a Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles crossover comic book, so maybe I'm not the only one that had that idea. But anyway, that's the first movie. We had a great time watching it again. If you have an opportunity to go catch this on the big screen, which you might, you should do it for real. Go take advantage of that while you can. There's going to be a new box set coming out. All 3 films in 4K. It's being released by Arrow Video. I think it's like $70 or something. But if you are a fan of the films and of the Ninja Turtles, I think I'm going to buy it for sure. It looks really cool to me. Check it out. So the next... Oh, also, this the screening for the 35th anniversary is not included in Regal Unlimited, the way that we usually go see movies. I would venture to say it's probably also not included in other theaters' unlimited plans. It is a Fathom event, so that's usually a separate charge. For us, it was $15 a ticket. I don't know what it costs where you're going to see it, but, check that out. Either way, I still feel like it was well worth it. And the fact that Todd was there was just a wonderful surprise. And, speaking of that, we went and watched the second film when we got home. Or we watched it the next day, I think.
Yeah, it was the next
day. The next day, yeah. And because we were like, oh, yeah, that's really cool. Like, he wrote this second film, too. Let's watch it. And so we actually had talked to him a little bit about the second film. And it turns out that he wasn't... when he did the Q&A... Colin actually got to ask him a question.
I did ask him a question. So he wrote both just the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and he also wrote Secret of the Ooze. So I asked him why he didn't come back to write the third movie. I don't know if that has a title or not because I've never really looked at it. I'm just going to call it the third one. I asked him why he didn't come back to write the third one, and he said he actually got offered the third one, and he said no. But he also said that he regrets not saying yes because now the one of the biggest movie genres that people pay a lot of money to go see are comic book movies, and this is his quote, by the way. He said, "I could have been the guy writing these movies," and I don't really think he's probably written other movies, but not any that are like big enough for people to care because. Or at least IMDb only lists that he wrote the first and second Ninja Turtles, and that's it. That's all it lists. and along with other sources, not just IMDb. But yeah, so he said he regrets not writing the third one because he could have had a lot more to be known for, and unfortunately that's not the case.
Yeah. Oh, so I just noticed we actually had some other things to say about the first film. So we had some fun facts and trivia. Ernie Reyes Jr., who plays a main character in the second film, Kino, possibly was the guy in the suit for Donatello. I've kind of read some conflicting things about that. I've seen some pictures online of him in the suit. However, there's all kinds of AI and fake pictures out there now, so I haven't seen anywhere definitively confirm that it's him in there, but it seems plausible, so I went ahead and included that in here. I guess you can do your own research if you want. Todd told everybody there that he actually wrote the first film in 10 days, which is insane if you think about it. It's a really great movie, especially for being written that fast. And he also said that he had never seen and still hasn't seen any of the cartoons or any of the other movies, that his only knowledge of the Ninja Turtles were from the comic books and the toys. He said he's never been to New York City. So I thought that was really interesting that like his only knowledge was of the comics and the toys. So, like from my perspective, I was like, oh, this is really great. I get to see this cartoon come to life. And for him, he probably wasn't even thinking about that because he'd never even seen the cartoon.
Yeah. And another thing about this movie is that Todd mentioned that Sam Rockwell, which he would go on to be an Academy Award winner, is in this movie, and he plays a character known as, quote, Head Thug.
Yeah, and it didn't really even occur to me that Sam Rockwell was in the movie until Todd said that beforehand. And I was like, Sam Rockwell was in this. And then I thought about it. I was like, I know exactly who he's talking about. And then he came on screen. I was like, dang, that is Sam Rockwell. No way. So that was pretty cool to notice that. Like I noticed several little details this time around that I hadn't noticed in the past. We've already talked about how it was the highest grossing movie until it was unseated by the Blair Witch Project, and Jim Henson's Creature Shop did the costumes and animatronics. There was an Easter egg that I noticed at the end of the film that Todd confirmed after the film. And that was where the chief of police was talking. I think he was talking to Head Thug, played by Sam Rockwell. And Sam Rockwell told him, check the East Warehouse on Lairdman Island and you'll get your answers there. And that's a reference to Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. Is that his name?
I have no clue.
Oh, gosh. I should know this, but I don't. I'm just going to look it up here real quick. Yes, Peter Laird. I was right. And he is the guy, both of them together are the creators of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So that was a reference to them. And I noticed that, and then he confirmed it after the film, and that was just really cool to me. So that's Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990. And then, as we said, in the next year, 1991, they were still, obviously this was massively successful. They wanted to keep it going, so they made another movie. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. And this one had a bigger budget. It was
$25 million.
$25 million, which again was a lot more money back in 1991 than it is now. The box office for this film was less than the first film. It was $90,656,813 roughly. Still not bad. Still significantly more than the budget was. So I think it looks like they did pretty well for themselves. Same kind of thing. I didn't see this movie anywhere streaming, like on Netflix or Hulu or HBO or anything. Maybe by the time you hear this, maybe it'll be on one of them. But it's definitely available for rental or purchase at all the digital retailers. Or like I said before, there's a chance you might already own this on another format, like a DVD or a Blu-ray or a VHS. So, shouldn't be that hard to find if you want to check it out. Unfortunately, this one is not currently in theaters. Perhaps it will be next year for its 35th anniversary. But at the moment, you pretty much are stuck watching it at home. Unless you own a movie theater and have a print of it or something, which I'm going to guess most people probably don't. So, who's in this movie?
So April O'Neil was actually recast for this movie due to, I don't think it was scheduling conflicts. I think they had
some creative differences.
Yeah, I think Judith Hogue just didn't want to do it. And so April O'Neil is now played by Paige Turco. I hope I'm saying that right. Donatello's voice also changed. He is Adam Carl now.
Yeah, and the reason that Corey Feldman wasn't in this movie, I guess he had some legal troubles that prevented him from making this movie. And I just thought that was cool that Corey Feldman was in the first one. I never knew that he was the voice of Donatello. But you might know Corey Feldman from The Goonies. That's a big one he was in. He's obviously in a bunch of other movies too, but anyway.
Robbie Rist is still the voice of Michelangelo, so he didn't join. As we talked about before, Ernie Reyes Jr. is Kino. Like, he's not a animal or anything. He's just a human. He's Kino. Kevin Clash is still the puppeteer and voice of Splinter. Laurie Faso, I hope I'm saying.
Fazo. I don't know.
He is the voice of Raphael now instead of Josh Pace.
Yeah.
And Kevin Nash.
Remember where I was talking about how wrestling was super big? Well, it wasn't as big back then, but Kevin Nash was Super Shredder, which I also thought was, like, I didn't realize that at first when I was a kid, but later on when I found that out, I thought that was really cool. If you're not familiar with who Kevin Nash is, he is probably most well known for being a professional wrestler. He was Diesel in WWF. He went by his real name, Kevin Nash, in WCW. He was part of the NWO, and he also acts. He's still in movies now. He was in the Magic Mike movies. That's not the only thing he's been in, but that's probably one of the bigger movies that he's been in recently. So he's still out there acting today, and I just thought that was really cool that he was still making it happen. Brian, I still don't know if this guy's name is Taki. I don't know.
Tochi. That's
however you say his name, he came back to do the voice of Leonardo. That's most of the main cast. Casey Jones was not in this movie. From what I heard,
I actually know why he wasn't in this movie. He was deemed too scary for this movie because this movie, Todd actually mentioned this movie is trying to take a more kid-friendly approach to the movies. So Casey Jones is not in this movie supposedly because he was deemed too scary for kid-friendly.
And it's also worth noting that this movie has a different director. So I don't know if that had anything to do with the direction that they went in with it, but possibly. And yeah, Todd did mention that of the two films, he doesn't like this one as much because he didn't want it to go as kid-friendly as they were going with it. And that was actually part of the reason, or maybe most of the reason, why he didn't return to write the third film, because he didn't want it to be super overly kid-friendly. And so I was a little surprised to hear that, because I had always thought that the second film was kind of on par with the first film. I always enjoyed it. But again, I was watching it kind of through the lens of a child. And now watching them recently with them fresh in my mind, I'm like, I could kind of see where he's coming from on that. I still think they're both great, but I could kind of see what he's talking about, where it's like there's some parts of the second one where it's like, yeah, I get why they did that, but like it doesn't really, it kind of seems like they sort of shoehorned some of those like kid-friendly jokes and stuff in there where it's like, it's not necessarily bad, but it's like you kind of went out of your way to do this, So what's the synopsis of this film?
So the synopsis of this film is at the end of the first film, they knock Shredder off the roof and into a garbage truck. And, when they reveal Shredder again, because he's still alive after that fall and being thrown to a garbage truck, there's just a giant pile of garbage. And the way they reveal him is his hand slowly comes up. So he's still alive, which that's a negative that I had. I don't understand how he's still alive because he fell off a roof into a garbage truck, got piled on by all that garbage, and it's been at least a couple months so he's been buried in garbage for over a month.
Well, didn't Casey Jones also hit the compactor?
Yeah, that too.
I guess maybe it didn't crush him up. I thought that was supposed to be the implication, and maybe it was. I don't know. I didn't get to talk to Todd about that, but that was interesting to me. So I always thought when I was a kid, oh man, they're just crushing this guy to death. That's brutal, But then the second one happens, oh, I guess he survived.
Yeah.
So
he's still alive, which is a negative for me. That's, in my opinion, that's kind of bullcrap that he's still alive, but whatever.
I mean, I guess they have to have a villain, So
Yeah,
I mean, it makes sense.
They could have gotten they could have got Krang or Bebop and Rocksteady or literally any other Ninja Turtle villain besides Shredder.
They could, but I mean, I think Shredder's the villain, So it's
but he's he literally got crushed.
No, I know what you're saying. I don't necessarily disagree, but I can see both sides of that.
And so anyway, Shredder comes back for revenge against the Ninja Turtles, and he finds this lab that actually created the ooze that mutated the turtles in the first place, and I forget what that place is called. It's
TGRI.
TGRI. So
which
he finds,
I'm trying to remember what that stands for. It's something like Research Industries or something. Let's find out.
Okay.
What does it stand for? Techno Cosmic Research Institute. So, at least according to the TMNT subreddit, I guess I'll take their word for it. There's another one that says Techno Global Research Industries. So, whichever one of those acronyms you want to go with. I think in the movie it was the second one. So, if I remember, they said it in the movie, and then I remember thinking oh yeah, that's cool. That's what that stands for. And then 3 seconds later, I was like, hey, what does it stand for again?
Yeah. So anyway, Shredder. Well, actually, April does a report on that company, and then Splinter is upset because he knows it's the company that made the ooze, but the turtles don't. So he shows them the vial because he kept it after all these years, and he's like, "This is the company." He doesn't say that, but he puts it back together, and he's he shows the turtles, so they find out. And Shredder finds out. I don't remember how he finds out, but he finds out too. And he kidnaps the head professor, is what I'm going to say. And he takes all their ooze, which the professor actually drained out most of it, but he still has one vial to drain. Shredder takes it along with the entire Foot Clan. And in the midst of them taking the ooze, the turtles come back. No. The turtles come in, and the Foot Clan comes back to fight them. I was like, why wouldn't you just leave? You're already gone. You have the ooze.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is still the synopsis. I'm not going to go too into depth. But anyway, they take the ooze, and Shredder creates two mutants, one of a wolf and one of a snapping turtle, called Razar and Togar. And
or Taka, I don't know,
something. And he sends them to fight the turtles. And then eventually the turtles, make them normal again. And then Shredder uses the rest of the ooze on himself and becomes Kevin Nash's character, Super Shredder. And so they have to defeat him when he's Super Shredder. And that's basically a synopsis of this book.
Yeah. So, so basically, he sees what the ooze did for the turtles, and he says, oh, maybe I should make some villains with this ooze, Yeah, so I remember when I was watching this as a kid, it was the same kind of thing. Oh, this is so cool. They're continuing the story. I really liked the additional glimpse into their origins, the explanation of that company that made that ooze and all of that kind of stuff. In the beginning of the movie, everybody's eating this pizza, and I always thought that pizza looked so delicious. And every time I see it, I'm like, man, I want some of that pizza. And it turns out that was from a real pizza place in New York City, which was Ray's on 11th, which is also referenced in Elf, where Santa says, oh, there's a million Ray's pizzas. They all claim to be the original, but the real one's on 11th. Well, that was the actual one from the movie. And I think in the movie, they called it Roy's Pizza. And then from what I understand, it became something else. And then I don't think it's there anymore now. But I always wanted that pizza from that movie. It just looks so great. And so their buddy Keno is a delivery guy for the chain. And he stumbles upon the Foot Clan burglarizing like a shopping center or something. And he tries to stop them. And then he ends up getting help from the Ninja Turtles. And at first they don't really want him to know who they are. They're living with April in her apartment now because the Foot Clan all knows where their lair is in the sewer. And eventually Keno figures out who they are and where they live. And they team up to fight the Foot Clan. So yeah, I thought this movie was great too. I think, the chances are you've probably already seen it. But if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's worth it. If you're, a fan of the movie, of the Ninja Turtles, you got to see this movie. Now, I don't know if I would say that about all of the movies. Like, for example, I have honestly never seen the third one all the way through. But the parts that I have seen of it, even as a little kid, I was like, this is so terrible. I'm not going to watch this whole thing. And now I kind of know probably why it wasn't as good as the other two, because they had a different writer and a whole different team and stuff.
Yes. And before we continue, I just want to mention some of my favorite and least favorite parts of this. Some of my favorite parts are, I like how when Splinter, punishes the Turtles for, whatever, their punishment is they have to do, 10 flips in a row. It doesn't matter. I think they're backflips most of the time. So they're just over here doing backflips like it's no big deal. I like the ninja rap part because there's some very interesting lyrics that don't really make any sense, but it's funny.
Have you ever seen a turtle get down? I remember every time I hear that song, I'm just like, no. That's such a weird thing to say. I don't know. I guess in 1991, it was just a normal thing to hear Vanilla Ice get up there and say that. But
and that was another thing. The screenwriter, Todd, he actually said that he originally wrote the ninja rap, but then Vanilla Ice signed on to the project and he wrote it, and so they used Vanilla Ice's version.
Go Ninja, go Ninja, go. Yeah. So I kind of want to hear Todd's version. I bet it's probably not bad.
Yes. Okay. And some of my least favorite things is there's no Casey Jones. Come on, man. You can't have him in the first one and then not in the second. it makes sense if he wasn't in the first one and they introduced him in the second one to add on. But it doesn't make sense that they removed him like that. I don't think that makes sense. And especially for the reason that he got removed, supposedly he was too scary. He's not scary. He's just Jason Voorhees, but with a non-deadly weapon.
Yeah, I guess they were maybe concerned about younger kids, or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, it would have been nice to. It seemed like they kind of made him a pretty major part of the first one, and then it was just April came back. And they're like, what happened to that guy? Oh, don't worry about him. So, some other things I thought about. When I was talking about the soundtrack of the first one, there's a song at the end, and it plays at the end of the movie too, and it's called TURTLE Power, Turtle Power. And I just remember thinking when I heard that song when I was a kid, oh, this is such a cool song. They teach you what turtle power is. If you follow these directions, you'll have turtle power. And I just remember it was sort of the same logic I had as a kid when I saw Jurassic Park. And they showed the process of cloning the dinosaurs. And I'm like, they're showing you how to do it. When this comes out on a videotape, I'm going to make my own dinosaur. I got the directions right here. So, of course, you grow up and you look back on it and you're like, that seems ridiculous. But it seemed perfectly logical at the time. So, Anyway, I guess that's pretty much our experiences with the first and second film. We still haven't watched the third one all the way through, and maybe we will just for the sake of completeness, but from what I remember, it wasn't that great.
There will probably... Don't expect a podcast on that one if we do watch that.
Yeah. I don't know. That's about it. You have any final thoughts you want to share? Or?
I know the second one is definitely a little bit more childish, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't watch it. You should, if you watch the... Well, I mean, you should watch them anyway, but especially if you watch the first one, like, also definitely check out the second one. You can skip the third one. No, we don't have to talk about the third one. So Todd, I think we already talked about this, but he said the first one was a little bit better because the second one was a little bit more childish. But I actually think the second one is better, even though it's a little bit more childish.
Yeah, I feel like he's a little hard on the second one. I like the second one. I don't, I can see his points, but I don't think the second one was bad or anything, So I would definitely recommend go watch these movies again. They still hold up 35 years later. So check them out. And I guess, have you got nothing else to add?
I don't got anything.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.